God, in his love for mankind, put on our image. God put on our image, human. And in Genesis, we read how God says, let us make man in our image and likeness. And now God's saying, I want to be made in the image of man, in order to recall us to that state that Adam had before the fall. And that is the reason for the incarnation. In order to recall our human nature, which had been dragged down to Hades, and to raise it up beyond the heavenly heights to divinity, to recall what we should be, and to raise us even higher. That means higher than the angels and anything that's been created by God. The highest of creation is man. And so to raise us up so that we can become godlike, we become divine. The technical term is theosis, to be godlike. Not to be God, of course, but to be godlike. And that is the whole point of the creation of man. So we can see how far we are from that. But though we sometimes get a glimpse of it, and I do believe that sometimes we do actually experience the grace of God as we should experience it. God saved us through our flesh. That's amazing. Human flesh. God wants to take it in order to become a true man. And in order to do this, and this is another wonder, he was carried in a human womb. It wasn't a phantom or made up. He didn't sort of create a new man. He chose a virgin. He grew in her womb. He was nurtured by her. He was fed at her breasts. He was a baby. And that special relationship between mother and child was wonderful, precious. I think we have to think about this motherhood, how important that is, and how God chooses somebody in particular for his incarnation. And it says here, Mary, Mother of God, was able to bestow on him an undefiled nature from her own. So it wasn't a takeover. She offered her nature to God and was accepted. There was a need for a new Adam, because Adam had fallen. But a new Adam who was not only sinless, but incapable of being deceived, like the first. In other words, an Adam that wasn't godlike wouldn't be a second Adam, wouldn't last very long. The devil would soon sort him out. But because he is sinless, because of his divine nature, Christ's divine nature, he is not capable of being tempted in the same way as the first Adam. It says, St. Paul says in Corinthians, the first man was made a living soul. The second man was made a quickening soul. Quickening meaning life-giving. So the first Adam had life, but the second Adam gave life because he is God. A need for a new Adam. The first man was made a living soul. The second was made a quickening spirit. Only God is sinless. A new Adam had to be not only a man, but God. But there was a need for a pure virgin womb, a pure virgin. And this is interesting because if you remember, one of the sons of Adam was Seth. And Seth was very righteous, a righteous person. And in Genesis, in chapter 6, his descendants are called sons of God. So they were a holy lineage, I think maybe we could put it that way. They were holy. And so the lineage came down to Joachim and Anna. over the centuries. Eventually we have Joachim and Anna, who are descendants of Seth, who was a holy man. And as you know, they couldn't have children in the normal sense, but they thought she was barren, and by the grace of the Holy Spirit, a wonderful miracle, Anna gave birth to the Mother of God. So here we have a connection going right back to the son of Adam, righteous son of Adam. She came from a holy lineage. Now, the Mother of God, and ever virgin, is actually a theological statement. It's not just a honorific title. Theotokos and Parthenos, which means ever virgin. These are not just honorary titles. This is a theological statement. And this was, consolidated by the Fifth Ecumenical Council and the Council of Ephesus. But that's not important. It's not important. The theological statement is that the Mother of God is the Mother of God. So how can we talk about it? Well, it seems to, how can we describe what happened? Actually, that's what I want to ask. Can we describe? Well, the answer is we can't. We can't describe it. St. Gregory of Palamas wrote 2 homilies on this feast, and you can read them yourself. The first one is number 52, which is short. And the second one, 53, homily 53, is about 14 or 15 pages. In-depth theology, spiritual. I started reading it and I abandoned it. It was too powerful. I couldn't take it. But St. John of Damascus came to the rescue. There's always a saint that can help out. And he is very clear, not that St. Gregory is not clear, but it's mystical writing, and it's beyond me. And maybe not beyond you, but it is beyond me. Basically, the Church speaks of her in the language of devotional language. That's the only way you can speak about the Theotokos is through devotional language or poetry. You can't start making statements because it doesn't make sense. We do not know what happened. And there, as you know, in the West there's been many movements of devotion to the Mother of God, especially in the Catholic Church. Now this is a form of piety, but piety has to be based on dogma. It's not based on how you feel. It's based on the dogma and teaching of the Church. And this is why we have to under the theology of the Mother of God. Otherwise we have a pious following. There's a lot of cults to Mary, and pious people in them, of course. But sometimes they're not based on Christian dogma. They've come from a different source. I don't want to analyze that, but this is very important that we understand that we have to take the teaching of the Church as much as we are able. Piety, I wrote down here, must always be guided by dogma. The mystery of her experience is hidden from us. We don't know what she experienced. We know that she went into the temple at the age of 3, how she lived, it says fed by angels. But we don't know anything. We don't know how she grew up. We don't know. This is hidden from us. And because people cannot delve into it, they say it didn't happen. That's an old, rather weak intellectual argument. It's like that argument based on statistics. It's usually an excuse for a weak theory, so you use statistics to bolster it up a bit. You know, there's three, well, I wouldn't go into that. Lies and statistics, that they go together. So we cannot know the mysteries hid from us. And so Gregory Palamas is about the only thing I could get from his homily was when, and here's a quote, when tasks exceed human strength, other people who do, well, expand on them. When tasks exceed human strength, on a physical level, that you have to do something and you're physically strong, but you can't do it. Or speech, elegant speech. You speak very well, you can explain things, but you get to a level where you can't go any further. And when you when you have to stop because you're limited, you're no different from the person who's got no strength or the person who can't speak well. You've both ended up in a dead end, cul-de-sac. You can't go any further. And this is the problem of trying to explain the feast. We can only go so far, and then after that we have to stop and admit that we don't know. St. John of Damascus says, the Theotokos did not bear a common man but God. And he emphasizes the importance of motherhood, because there was a personal relationship between the Theotokos and her child, because she is a mother. This is contrary to some teaching, and usually Protestant teaching, that the Mother of God was just a conduit, a tool used by God. He had to be born somewhere, so he must well choose Mary, and she can, bear the Son of God. They don't take into consequence that there's a relationship. How can somebody, a human being, have a relationship with the Holy Trinity that's intimate? Now you know what I mean about how we get to a certain level, then we can't go any further. We do not know it. It is a mystery. But we know it's true. How do we know it's true? Only by the grace of God. Do we have doubts? Yes, probably. But I'm sure those doubts will disappear as we begin to pray. Then we will realize that this is a great mystery. The Theotokos did not bear a common man but God. And John Damascene, he emphasizes the importance of motherhood, a personal relationship. He is not only Lord and Redeemer of the Theotokos, but Son. What a fantastic relationship. Amazing. He's not a channel to give birth to Christ. Sorry, she's not a channel to give birth to Christ. Christ did not come as through a pipe. That's what John says. And the Mother of God chose to serve in this mystery of the Incarnation. Christ was born of the Theotokos, not through the Theotokos. Christ was born of the Theotokos, her son, not through her. Not a pipe, not a conduit, not some means of the Incarnation. This is a stumbling block for many Protestants. I can't understand why you're venerating Mary. Well, why not? How could you not? The mystery. I'm not lumping all Protestants into the same bag, as it were. No, because there are different levels, of course. But generally speaking, and the thing is that if you deny the Mother of God as Mother of God, then you are following the heresy of Nestorius. This is Nestorian thinking. And I think many Protestants are actually modern, pseudo-Nestorians. Not that they follow Nestorius' teaching necessarily, but they do not accept the validity of the Mother of God as Mother of God. In the East, especially in Saudi Arabia, what's called Saudi Arabia today, but whatever it was called in the 6th century, the Nestorians were very strong there. They had broken away from orthodoxy and they had their own church, they had their own bishops. In Syria, there are many Nestorians. You remember St. Isaac of Nineveh was a bishop amongst Nestorians. Some claimed, some academic theologians think that he was actually a Nestorian. He wasn't. We know that. Actually, we know that through the experience of St. Paisius. Amazing again. Contact with the saints. St. Isaac was an Orthodox bishop living in a Nestorian city. And that is the connection. The Nestorians, which is how I see it is that they, because of their misunderstanding of the Theotokos, or not recognizing, they didn't call her Theotokos, they called her Christotokos. She was the bearer of Christ, but not the mother of God. I mean, that's too much, isn't it? It's amazing. They couldn't accept it. And it's interesting because I believe that's where Islam came from. Bishop Damascenus told me that Muhammad was actually instructed by an historian bishop. Or even his father was an historian. Muhammad's father was Christian, but an historian. And this is how Islam came about. Well, I'll let you think about that one. I'm not following it up personally. Mother of God chose to serve in the mystery of the Incarnation. Christ was born of the Theotokos, not through the Theotokos. And here's a paradox, because Mother of God, Mary, represents the human race, and yet she is set apart. Here's a paradox, holy paradox, I'd like to add. She was a representative of human race and set apart. The Mother of God was put into an unparalleled relationship to God, to the Holy Trinity, even before the Incarnation. Incarnation put things right after the fall. St. John goes on to say that the new man, the new Adam, is more than a man. And Theotokos is mother of the second Adam. And we are also, we are in a unique relationship with God by adoption. So we're all part of it. We're part of this spiritual family, this spiritual lineage from Seth all. We're all of it, part of it, by adoption. We've been adopted, and now we are sons and daughters of God. The Mother of God is not merely a tool in the hands of God, but a living person. And St. John goes on to say that Christianity is indeed concerned with people, not ideas. Our faith is not philosophical. There might be philosophical elements in it, but it is actually a living faith to do with people. That's what church is about. People, love for each other, relationships. Not following some strict rules without thinking. We need to have rules because we're wayward spiritually, so we need some guidance. But that's not what it's about. It's to do with fellowship. And tonight is an example of it, is fellowship. That's why our parish, I believe, is especially blessed. I don't know about other parishes, but I just know this one, because we love each other. That doesn't mean to say we agree with each other. In fact, we're very much like a family, and we have probably arguments, maybe behind the scenes, but I'm aware of it. We're humans, you know. Certain people annoy us, but that's life. And we have to learn to love everybody. It says we have to love our enemies, yet we can't love our own families or those close to us. Or, you know, it's difficult to do it. We do love them, but it's not easy. The Mother of God continues the human race. That's what she does. And we're all a part of it. We're a part of that. We're a part of the genealogy of Jesus. And she accepts the divine will. Her obedience, and this is the next stage which affects us, also counterbalances the disobedience of Eve. As by a virgin, the human race had been bound to death. By a virgin, it is saved. And I have a quote here from St. Jerome. I have it in Latin as well. Mors per evam, vita pers Mariam. Death by Eve, life by Mary. This is a quote from St. Jerome. But she had to agree. Now, this is where the human will comes in. Our wills, we have to agree with God. We're not forced into this. She said, let it be according to thy word, let it be. And these are the words that were echo of the words in Genesis, when God says, let there be light. Let there be a firmament above the heavens, let there be. And the Mother of God saying, let it be to me. And there is a wonderful, miraculous connection. She is a creature, and she's involved in the creation. Again, that's a paradox. It certainly is for us, it's a paradox. On the spiritual level, maybe it isn't, but it is for us, certainly at this moment. But death by Eve, life by Mary. And then let it be according to thy word. And God says, let there be light, etc., etc. The word of the creature caused the creature to descend into the world. As soon as Mary said, let it be according to thy word, then Christ was able to enter creation, to put on our humanity. I don't like the word put on humanity, because he grew into humanity inside the womb, became like us. I think saying put it on is like putting on a cloak, and it's not like that. It's integral part of his life. And Mary here displays human freedom. She is a symbol of the spiritual life. That's how spiritual life would be, to be obedient to God, obedient to the church. And through that, then we grow spiritually. But we have freedom to reject or to accept. We receive grace in a free obedience and submission, but it's free. It must be free, it must be voluntary, it can't be forced. And St. John ends on his epistle on this, that the ever virgin is a spiritual attitude. There are some, for example, I'll give you an example, there's some monastics who are virgins, but they're not virgin in their attitude or in their thinking. Very much the opposite. And there are people who are not virgins, who are virgins in spirit and in mind, in purity. So it's not necessarily a physical thing as we understand it, but an attitude. And we need to be virgins in our attitude towards Christ and towards each other. Ever virgin is a spiritual attitude. She preserved virginity in mind and soul and body. She is a model for us.